guys, thank you so much for joining. I can see so many people are joining. Caroline, Viola, hi. Dr. Anusio Raman, hi. Grace Piri, hi. How are you doing? And there's Kinley, there's Kam, there's Onesai. Portia, hi. How are you doing? And happy belated birthday, Portia. So we are going to just take like a few minutes to wait for the other participants to come in. And I hope everybody is okay. Portia is in Botswana. How are you, Portia? And Grace is logging in from Zambia. So it's so nice to have you guys here. We'll just take like 2 or 3 minutes to help the other scholars to join. So I just ask that we be patient for that as well. Our guest is already here. And we also have support staff from the Wells Mountain Initiative, and I also want to welcome them as well. So we just give the other scholars a few minutes to join in. So Yusta has just sent a message. He says, hi, everyone. I'm Yusta from Rwanda. Pleasure to be here again. Hi, Yusta. Thank you so much for joining in. And I'm glad that you are in. We just have 1 more minute to get other people in so that we can at least start together. I also see Precious Mhlanga. You should be from my country, Precious, and I hope you're well. Oh, Precious says she's from Eswatini. Hi, Precious. Nice to see you. Afternoon, Tam. How are you? Cam says, greetings. I'm from Cameroon. Effie from Kenya. Hi, Effie. Oh, and there's Ekusi Law from Kenya as well. So it's 5 minutes past our starting time. So I think we've given people so much ample time to be joining. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to this webinar that we are going to be speaking on branding. It's a very important topic to most of us. I know that we are all engaged in projects, or at least planning to be engaging in projects. And so I must just say I'm very, very excited about this session. As I have mentioned already, our speaker is already in, and I want to welcome her. Her name is Wemimo Onikan. And I'll be sharing her bio in a few minutes. I also want to take the opportunity to welcome all those WMI scholars and student scholars, graduate scholars who are joining us, and to welcome also the support staff that we have and persons who are working tirelessly behind the scenes, like Lisa, and Nicole, everybody, guys, you are really supporting us a lot, and we want to appreciate you and to thank you, and also welcome you to the session that we have on branding. I'll take this opportunity to introduce our speaker. Her name is Wemimo Onikan. I'm so blessed to be having you at this moment. It's not the first time that I'm meeting you, Wemimo, and I think we've met in some other spaces, and I'm really excited to be with you here. So hi, Wemimo.
Hi, Samantha. to be here with you again.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and I'm glad that you made it. So Wemimo is a media and communication specialist with years of experience in nonprofit, public and private sectors. She has led the communications for high impact performance projects in Africa and North America, leveraging her expertise in strategic communications, media engagement, impact documentation, qualitative research, and storytelling. Working with organizations such as Save the Children International and Mercy Corps, as well as companies in the tech, healthcare, and financial sectors, she has been responsible for managing their public-facing components, and some of these clients increasing visibility and improving their brand presence in their locations of operation. So Wemimo is also a master's degree holder in strategic communications. She's a member of the Canadian Public Relations Society and a board member of the International Association of Business Communications, Waterloo chapter in Canada. This is really so powerful, Wemimo, and I want to welcome you and say all the best. I'm looking forward to your session. I've been for a couple of days, actually. Okay, so over to you, Wemimo.
All right, thank you so much, Samantha. Really nice to connect with you again after quite some time, and really exciting to connect with everyone. I'm looking at the chat. If you haven't dropped in your details, it'll be really lovely to know where you're connecting from. So if you can just tell me, I know that some of you have put in your names and where you're connecting from, but it'll be nice to also get a bit of more information. And because it's a webinar style, we're not able to really interact as much, but we'll just do well with the chat. So just let us know where you're connecting from, your name, and what organization you work with or you run. So I assume that you run a business or you have a business idea or there's something you're working on. You can just throw that in the chat. Let us know what exactly it is you're working on. If you have a nonprofit, let's know the name of your nonprofit and what your nonprofit does. If you have a business you're running, let's know the name of your business and what your business is about. All right, so I see Grace from Zambia. Thank you so much, Grace, for connecting. I see Portia. Okay, Portia, we can't see where you're from. We see Yusta from Rwanda. Pleasure to meet you and nice to have you here. Pressure from Eswatini, nice to have you. I see Tim.
Yeah, Wemimo, I also just wanted to jump in a little bit. I wanted to say, we've got a chat box, we've got a question and answer section. So if people have got, questions along the way, I think they can just throw them in there as well. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Great point. Yes. So please, along the way, as we move along, please, if you do have questions, just throw them in the question box and we'll be happy to take your questions. Portia is from Botswana. Nice to have you, Portia. Good. I see Success from Nigeria. Hi, Success. Sanusi from Ghana. Ekusi from Kenya. Amazing. I see lots of really, really lovely people. Charlotte from Cameroon. Lovely. Great to have you all. And I'm looking forward to just, sharing. And by all means, as we move along, if you do have questions along the way, or there are things that you would like a bit of clarification on, please feel free to just let us know in the comments and Samantha will be throwing that forward. So I'll just share my screen. Just give me a moment.
Maybe while you're still sharing your screen, I'll just take an opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Samantha Swanda and I come from Zimbabwe. I'm still a scholar and I'm with the Zimbabwe Open University and I'm studying towards a degree in special needs education. This is my third year and I was supposed to be in my second semester, but sadly due to COVID and other stuff, we're still waiting to do the second semester. But I'm really happy to be here and I work a lot with children with disabilities, people with disabilities, women with disabilities in Zimbabwe. I've got an organization called Signs of Hope Trust that works with people with disabilities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Samantha, for that. That was really on point. I was hoping that more people would tell us what exactly they do. Samantha has told us she works with people with disabilities, and that's exciting. And, she runs Signs of Hope. It'll be nice to know. Please just drop it in the chat. It'll be really lovely to know what exactly you do as well. And that, as we move along in the session, then we can actually relate some of those with what you do. All right, can you see my screen? Please just confirm if you can see my screen. We can just drop that in the chat.
Yes, we can see that. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, so today we're going to be talking about creating a brand guide. I believe that in the last session, we had touched a bit around creating, the whole idea behind a brand, what exactly a brand is, how you can utilize that in your businesses or in your work, whatever it is that you do. We'll be doing a bit of overview still on that so that we kind of just flow from that last presentation into the current one. And so Samantha did a quick intro of who I am. I am Wemimo Onikan. I'm a media and communication specialist. I've got quite some experience that I believe will be valuable to the group of people here. And by all means, as we move along, once again, every now and then, we'll just continue to mention. Please feel free to throw in your questions or comments, or if you feel like there's something that is being said that that resonates quite well with you, or you have an example that you would like to share, by all means, please just throw that in and we'll be happy to take that on. All right, so today we're going to be addressing a couple of things straight on. We'll be looking at an overview of branding, relating it from your last session to this one. And we'll also be talking about your brand story, why that is important and how exactly you can craft that to ensure that you have a strong brand. We'll also be talking about your brand guide and why that is important, how exactly you can create one, and also be looking at factors that you would need to consider when you're creating a brand guide. And we'll be having question and answers at the end, but even as we move along, we'll be happy to take questions as well. So really quickly, we'll just look at this. So what exactly is a brand? I know that from your last session, you've had sessions around branding. And even if you weren't very sure what branding was on or how exactly that meant anything, I believe that from the last session, you're starting to get a sense of the importance of branding and why you really need to look at that. So if you want to just throw in the chat, just let me know what do you think a brand is and why do you think branding is important? It would be really nice to just see a couple of thoughts in there. What's a brand? Why is a brand important? What's the big deal about a brand? Right. So in terms of branding is not just you having a business or running an organization. Branding is about the perception that you give off to your audiences. What do people see? What do people hear? What do people feel when they come in contact with your business or your organization? What are the vibes that they get from the communication that you pass across in your business organization? And that may be in form of the content that you produce for social media. It may be content on your website. It may be documents that you produce. It may be even things you say, or even it could even be pictures. It could be your logos. It could be different things. And as much as possible, all of those things all tied together to then speak to what exactly people think your brand is and what they understand what you're doing to be. I'll just throw in a couple of we'll just look at a couple of statistics here. According to Forbes, Forbes, is a popular publication, and according to Forbes, it says that presenting a brand consistently across all platforms can increase your revenue by up to 23%. And that's a lot. So when you ensure that you have consistent messaging across all of the work that you do, whether it's your photography, your text, or whatever, in whatever form it is, you realize that you're able to get increased profits on your work, increased revenue, increased income in the business that you run by as much as 23%. 61% of people are more likely to buy from companies that deliver quality, that deliver unique content. So that's by contently. So you're not just producing content because this is what everybody's doing. You're not just creating social posts because, oh, everyone is creating a social post. Oh, the other people in my sphere, Samantha works in disability space and everyone is talking about this topic. Everyone is writing their posts in a certain way. Or maybe I should do same. Much more than that, you want to ensure that you have a unique voice to what you put out to the public, and people who do that have a really high chance of getting more engagement. Consistently presented brands are 3.5 times more likely to enjoy excellent brand visibility than those with an inconsistent brand presentation. So if one day you post one thing a certain way, and then next week you post it in another way, the upper week you change, so your font is one thing today, and then, the font is something else next, another time, or the colors you use are inconsistent, or you just have those back and forths, you're likely to lose your audience. So one of the things you want to do is to ensure that you're consistently passing across the same messages across your different communication channels. 82% of consumers feel that they feel more positive about a brand after reading customized content. Remember, we talked about the fact that you can't afford to just produce things because that's what everybody's doing, that's what everybody's talking about or chatting about. Much more than that, you want to make sure that you're creating content that is unique to you as an organization. So, again, hoping that you can throw in a couple of thoughts in the chat. When you see these brands, what comes to mind really? If you think about it, just taking a look at the slides, you see a lot of these brands are quite popular. A lot of brands are popular, from Unilever to MTN, Toyota, Coca-Cola, Virgin, Adidas. Regardless of whatever country you are in, you're sure that at some point or the other, you've come in contact with most of the brands on the screen. And so when you see these things, certain things come to mind, and that's simply because there's something they've been doing over and over again. And that's why when you see it, it comes to mind and you remember. The first thing they do is consistency. They're consistently passing across messaging in a certain way that makes you continually remember them every time you see a logo, every time you see even a text. You look at the way Coca-Cola writes. It's the way Coca-Cola's word text is written. Even when something else is written in that way, you would continue. You just associate it with Coca-Cola automatically because they've been consistent in their branding. All right. So we also have things around storytelling. Organizations have continued. Can you please mute Samantha? Okay. Apologies for that. All right. So branding is also, you're able to remember these organizations, these companies, simply by their logo, because many of them actually tell stories. They're able to tell stories around what they do, and just kind of get your attention through those stories. They're also big on public perception. So continuously, they're able to control the messaging, control the things that they pass across to their public, not just letting things go by and it's just one-off, it's just okay. They're deliberate about the messaging, they're strategically creating the content and ensuring that they're passing the same thing across board at every point in time. And that's why when you see those logos, something sticks in your mind when you see that and you remember them. So these are there are different types of brands. When we talk about branding, you could have personal brands. So there are people who are well known today because they've been able to build a personal brand around themselves, around the expertise that they are known for, around the work that they do. Right. In some cases, for some people, it's a corporate brand. So much more than just the individual who builds an online presence or, popularity, so to say, around their person. Organizations also can build a brand. So therefore, the organization is well known for a certain thing, whatever it is, it may be producing it may be producing maybe plastic cups, for example, or they're this company is very well known for, their excellent customer service. They are probably in the financial services space. So when I see this particular bank, I know that they're very good with excellent, with customer service. It could be different things, but then that's something that a company, an organization can deliberately build on and then strengthen a corporate brand. You could also have product brands, right? So a Coca-Cola, for example, we just talked about Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has done really great with the corporate brand as well as its product brand. So when you see Coca-Cola, when you see, whether you decide to call it Coca-Cola or you call it Coke, you just know it because they've consistently passed across information, passed across messaging that reinforces what their brand stands for. Around, you just know that when I take Coke, there's an excitement. I feel I love, the taste of Coke. They take pictures and they put, you see Coke and let's say jollof rice for my friends from Nigeria. You see Coke and jollof rice go together, or you see Coke and something. They've been able to work around their branding for their products that you just see the product and then you just associate that product with, oh wow, when I want to feel happy, I go drink Coke, right? When I want to have a party, I go drink Coke, or when we're having a celebration of some sort. You can also have geographic brands. Different countries, for example, we use countries as an example. Different countries are continually branding themselves, branding their geographic location. Hello, can you all hear me? I think I lost connection.
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, okay, awesome. All right, yeah, awesome. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I was speaking about geographic brands, and so you could have countries, for instance, that deliberately brand themselves. So countries, for instance, I'll take South Africa, for example. Continuously, South Africa is building a brand around, when you want to relax, when you want to have South Africa is the place to come to when you want to go on vacation. They show you all the nice beaches, all the nice places, and you're like, oh, maybe, when I have some money and I'm thinking of going on a vacation, I should visit South Africa, because they've been able to brand themselves, brand that location as a beautiful place to come to. Different countries, Nigeria is continuously doing that. Ghana, different countries are just continuously trying to see how to package that location in such a way that people are interested in coming, interested in just visiting because of the brand that they're continuously building. You could also have service brands. It could be a hotel that works around their services, packages their service in such a way that is appealing to you, and you want to be involved. You want to patronize them because of the kind of service and the way the services are packaged, the consistent messaging that they pass across. You could also have events, right? Events branding themselves. You could go on and on. There are lots of ways that different people and people brand. You could also have, for instance, two organizations coming together to co-brand. Let's say, for instance, to bring in for an event, or for one thing or the other. But you could also have online brands as well, which kind of cut across. So even if, for instance, someone has a personal brand, corporate brand, product brand, your online brand, regardless, still cuts across. So, we move on real quick to a brand story. Now we get, hopefully this has helped to build some foundation around branding and, how exactly you can brand and the types of branding you can possibly have, and why it is important for you. So now we're looking at your brand story, and why is your brand story even important? What is even a brand story, if you will? Your brand story is super important, right? So whether you are a nonprofit, or you are a for-profit organization, the people at the back scene want to know your story. They want to know how you're able to bring those products to the market. They want to know how you're able to get people to work with you. They want to have a sneak peek on the backstory. And that's something that is sometimes we may feel like, oh, that's not is not the so great part, but it's important because then that's what people want to see. Mitch Joel, president of Miram, he said that the brands that win are the brands that tell a great story. When it comes to transmedia storytelling, the brands that win are the brands that tell many great stories and are able to connect them all together. So you're telling the story about the founder, you're telling the story about the team behind the scene, you're telling the story about how you're able to get, for instance, you're producing, I imagine someone producing tomato paste, and then you're able to tell the story of how the tomatoes are planted and harvested and taken from the farm to production and, the whole packaging process. I imagine, and then just creating content, showing pictures, having quotes, telling stories about how the tomato paste you finally have in your kitchen didn't just show up. There's a process to it, right? And the people who patronize businesses want to see that. So if you're running, it may not even be tomato paste, but it could be a small business. You're doing something. It could be a nonprofit where you're attending to the needs of people. You're addressing issues around violence against girls, for example, or you're attending to issues around disabilities. People want to know the backstory. Why are you doing this? What inspired you to start this? Why did you decide? What makes you different? Why should we support your cause? Why should we be interested in the organization that you're running? So the story behind is what people actually buy into, much more than the things you tell them, much more than the kind of social content you're putting out. The backstory makes you very relatable, makes people want to connect with you, make people and they're like, this is a real human being, this is a real story, and I can relate to this. And then they are more likely to buy into what you're doing. All right. So when you're looking at then your brand story, what are the things that you consider? So now we know that your brand story is important. We know that you need to then tell that backstory and you don't want to hide it. So I think some of the things you can consider is, number one, what is your why? Why are you doing this? Is it, for instance, for Samantha who's working on disability, could it be that you had an experience once, you had a family, maybe a family member who had a disability, and you literally felt the pain each day when he or she had to go through work and the challenges that he or she had to face continually, and then you decided and said, okay, I want to do something to stop this. Is that your why? If that is your why, tell that story. Right. So if for instance, you started a business, you started a small business because you couldn't pay for school, you couldn't afford your school fees, and then you decided to start a business so that you could raise funds to pay for your school fees. And from there, you are now able to earn, you're now able to pay for your fees, you're now able to stand on your own as an independent man or independent woman. That's the backstory. Tell that story. You'll be amazed at the people who would be able to say, oh, wow, I can relate to that. I also want to be able to make money by myself. I also don't want to have to, struggle to pay my school fees. And I, look at this person, look at he today, the business is big, but he's telling us how he started. And I'm like, oh, wow. So you can imagine the kind of inspiration that would come simply from people listening to your story and people understanding the thoughts behind that brand. So at every point in time, you want to ensure that you're not hiding that story. You're pulling that your why, that thing that was the driving force for you to start that business or for you to start that organization. Let it be ingrained in your messaging, because that's what people can connect and relate with. You want to make sure that you understand your product and the services that you provide. You need to know it like the back of your palm. Like you need to know it very well. You should be able to speak to it. What's the big deal about your product? Why is your product or service different? If you're running a nonprofit, what's the difference that your nonprofit is making? Why should we support your own nonprofit and not someone else's? There are so many organizations today doing different things. What's your unique selling proposition? What makes you different? And why should we work with you? Why should we buy your products? I can as well go buy, if you're making biscuits, for instance, I could as well have bought biscuit from somebody else. But why should I buy your biscuits? Why should I buy your artwork? I should have bought from someone else. But when there's a story, when there's details that and you can speak to all of that, understand your products, the services you provide, the difference that it makes in the lives of people, and you're able to tell that story, it makes such a big difference in your branding. Another thing that you want to do is ensure that you understand your audience, and you want to ensure that you understand them thoroughly. Sometimes where we can be caught up in that space of just, who are you trying to reach? Oh, I'm speaking to everybody, or I'm addressing, I'm addressing women, or my project is aimed at supporting women who have been abused. Let's use that as an example. Okay, good enough. We know that it's women who have been abused, but even among women who have been abused, can we break it down further? When you say women who have been abused, are you particularly targeting married women who are being abused? Are you targeting single women who are being abused? Are you targeting women? So in that subset of women, you can literally break it down further, all right? Are your services addressing, women, your women who are, or young women who are being abused in universities, or is it just secondary schools, or is it women in a certain community? So you want to be as specific as possible in your segmentation. And then once you know that way, you're able to target your messaging, you're able to target your brand story in such a way that it truly resonates with the people who are listening to you. Another thing that you want to consider is incorporating your brand story into your overall communication, everything that you're speaking to. So all of the resources you're creating, you tie it all in, and then you want to make sure that you do that consistently. You're not going to tie it in once and then the next time you just write bland messaging, and then some other time you then talk about your story. No, you consistently continue to let that run through all through the work that you're doing. All right, so in terms of branding as a nonprofit, I have here some examples of some nonprofit organizations that some, I believe that many of which we know. UNICEF and WHO are even beyond nonprofits. They are like literally almost government agencies in themselves, sort of. You have AMREF, you have World Vision, there's, Wells Mountain, there's Plan International, and so on, Save the Children, WWF. So as a nonprofit organization, you're also considering all of these things in the kind of messaging that you create. So you're looking at things around storytelling. Remember, we talked about backstory and, for instance, the why behind what you do. So you want to make sure that's coming out very clearly in your messaging, in the things that you're passing across to people. And then if you have beneficiaries of your program whose lives have been changed, who have been impacted greatly by the work that you do, by all means, share those stories online, share those stories in your resources, in your brand. As we move along, we'll be going deeper into your brand guide and all of the nitty-gritty details of how you then package yourself in such a way that people can relate to what you do. So you want to make sure that all of these things are tied into that. Same thing for a for-profit organization. Even though for-profit, they can be that drive. Okay, it's there, we're there. I created this business because I want to make money. I created this business because I had a need, or I saw that there was a challenge or a problem in my community. I decided to create a business to meet that challenge. Fantastic. All right. But while it's important to make money, okay, so 13%, according to customer thermometer, some research, it says 13% of consumers would pay 31 to 50% more for your products or services if they were under the impression that your business is making a positive impact on the world. So it's not just enough to say we're making money. And we're trying to increase profits, and we're trying to address, make sure that our bottom line is not suffering. Much more than that. People want to know, so even after making the money, how is it making our lives better? All right. And that's why, for instance, organizations spend millions and millions on corporate social responsibility. Aside the fact that they're making money, they're also trying to say, okay, they're supporting construction of roads, they're supporting healthcare, they're supporting one thing or the other. They're trying to look for ways to make sure that they're pulling back that money into things that support the community. And so they then use that to say that, okay, we're not just making money, we're also giving back. We're also, being a face and supporting people, which is great. But for the businesses in the room, I assume that, we're still small businesses, and there's still a long journey for us to go in our enterprises. You may not be able to start a corporate social responsibility sort of thing, just off the bat, but you can start off. Remember, we talked about your backstory. You can start off being relatable and talking about why you started that business and why you're doing that business. What's the why behind what you're doing, and being able to speak to that, and then being able to then share and how what you're doing is making a difference. So if somebody bought your product, how did that change their lives? Did it make them happier? Did it address it? So for instance, if you make shoes, can you tell a story around how, because of the shoes, somebody wears your shoes and is more confident at work, or is, feels more confident at work, feels more confident to do things that they would normally have felt, not so confident. I mean, that's an interesting perspective to look at wearing shoes. It could be that, oh, I make jewelry and that's the business that I do. Amazing. And do you want to tell a story about your customers who wear your jewelry, and whenever they wear your jewelry, they feel very excited and happy, and it has brought joy to their lives and joy to their home. I mean, we could go on and on about all the possible products and services that you can possibly be working on as a for-profit organization, but much more than just the money you make from it. You want to be able to tie it back to how it's making people's lives better. When you do that, you're more likely to get people to want to patronize you. You're more likely to get people to have a positive impression about the work that you do. All right. So now let's go into your brand guide. And so this is, some people would say, oh, a brand book or a brand manual, or, call it different names. But pretty much it's what it takes your brand story and then ties them into different elements, and then puts pretty much instructions on how they should be used, such that even if you're not there, somebody else can pick up that brand guide, can literally continue to run things in your absence, and you are still speaking with the same tone of voice. You're still speaking, you're still speaking the same language, literally. It's not that, oh, it's when the social media person is creating content, the post look a certain way. But then when somebody else on the team creates content, it sounds totally off. You don't want to do that. So having a brand guide helps to ensure that there's something that everybody is running with in the team. And then your messaging is consistent, regardless of which team member is managing the communication at any point in time. Let's start off first with logos. Logos are a big part of your branding. As a matter of fact, people see your logo and they remember you. Remember, we talked about Coca-Cola in the last couple of slides. Coca-Cola they've done a great job around their products, around their branding, such that when you see Coca-Cola, even the font, the way the text is written, even the color, the red, it's not just any red, such that if somebody else wrote, if someone wrote Amazon in the same font of Coca-Cola, even though it's Amazon that is written, your mind goes to Coca-Cola because of the brand they have built consistently over time. Amazon is a popular brand that we all know. I mean, like they have stores, they do great work around goods and services, and they have bookstores, they have different things. Now let's dissect the logo of Amazon. Just a quick dissection here. So we see the Amazon logo. It's black. It has an orange arrow underneath that kind of just moves from the A to the Z. And what that means is that first, if you realize the arrow is not just an arrow, it's curved like a smile. And for them as an organization, one of the things that drives them is that they want to be able to put smiles on people's faces. And that's what the arrow, that curve, that's what that curve stands for. And then if you notice that the arrow goes from A to Z, meaning that they sell everything from A to Z. So Amazon, you go on Amazon website, there's literally nothing you want to buy that you won't find on Amazon. They're just there being able to provide and meet needs. So it's just interesting how, for instance, Amazon was able to take what they believe as an organization, bringing happiness to people, meeting the needs of people across different countries. They're able to take that and incorporate that into their logo, such that the logo says something. It's not just a logo. It's not just mere words and mere text. They also have clear. The text, the fonts and everything is clear, such that even, regardless of the documents they create, when you see a document and it has the Amazon text, you would know. We talked about Coca-Cola, same thing, you would know. Brands that have consistently built that strong presence have done a great job at consistently ensuring that no matter the communication, the details are the same. And the details, like the logo, for instance, are not just mere text, but they actually speak into the vision and mission of the organization. Let's look at a nonprofit, UNICEF. UNICEF it's a child-focused organization. Their vision, their mission is big on addressing issues around children, addressing issues around motherhood, maternal health, child health. And you don't need to go look for technical documents about UNICEF for you to get a sense of what UNICEF does. Simply looking at UNICEF's logo, you can get a sense of, there's something about the logo. I see a mother holding a baby. I see the globe. So, you get it. I mean, even if this was a layman, just simply trying to interpret this, would say, okay, there's a mother holding a baby in the world. So it has to do with motherhood and children in the world, just simply looking at the logo. So they're able to tie the things they do as an organization into their branding, into their logo. And that's the same thing that every successful organization really should do. Your logo shouldn't just be a one-off thing, shouldn't just be just another logo, right? It should be something that people can look at and can tell some detail about what you do as an organization, even the color. All right, we'll be going further into that as we move into the next slide. All right, so this is a guide. Now, different colors elicit different emotions. And as a business, as an organization, you don't just pick a color because it looks nice. All right, you don't just pick a color because I like it, or because, oh, my friends like it, or, oh, my children like this color. I just thought it would look pretty, so I decided to pick the color. Different colors elicit different emotions. So what do you want people to feel when they come in contact with your brand? What do you want people to remember, right? What kind of taste do you want to leave literally in people's mouths when they come in contact with your brand? All right. So if you use something like yellow is an upbeat, bright, it's a color of excitement. It's the color of the sun. With yellow, you're talking about optimism, clarity, warmth. There's something warm and just exciting about yellow. All right. Orange is that friendly, confident, cheerful color. Remember Amazon and the smile. if you remember the logo, the Amazon and the smile is actually orange. So it shows that as a brand, we are Amazon and we are friendly people. We are cheerful people. We are confident that we're going to deliver your goods and services. You want to make sure that we're delivering from A to Z, and we're doing that with so much excitement. So that color, you've not met an Amazon staff, but just seeing the logo, just seeing the colors, it already gives you a sense of what the brand stands for. Red is that bold, excitement. Red is like into your face, right? And so Coca-Cola, for instance, ExxonMobil, CNN, right? Canon, they use those colors and it's like into your face. Like you can't, even if you didn't notice them, you will get to notice them somehow, but it's super bright and it shows the excitement. We're bold. CNN is the brand that when there's war in Afghanistan, even if other media organizations don't want to go to Afghanistan, CNN will go there. CNN reporter will go into the heart of the war and get you good stories because we're bold, right? So it's just that message that you can pass, subtle message that you can pass simply by the colors you select. Creativity, purple shows you're creative. In some cases, purple could also be royalty, all right? It's kind of like a mix of purple and pink there, so it could also be around things like royal. So depending on the business and what exactly you do. So you're having these thoughts in your mind. Blue, you notice that brands that are big on trust use blue a lot. So for instance, banks, a lot of banks use blue. A lot of in hospitals, if you notice hospital colors, blue, white, there's something they're trying to tell you from those colors, all right? There's that thing about trust. There's that thing about, we are dependable. You can rely on us. We've got strength. When you see green, there's something peaceful about green. You're talking about growth. You're talking about health, vitality. And so a lot of health brands use green to kind of just show and tell what they do as a brand, as an organization. If you use things like gray, black, it shows some calmness, some stability around your brand. So these are things that you continuously want to put in, at the back of your mind when you're sitting down to decide how exactly you want to create your brand, what exactly you want to do and how you want to do it. You're not just picking things randomly, you're sitting down to reflect deeply before you make selections. Do we have questions at this point? Just as we move, I just want to make sure that we're not. I see someone say.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
That's fine. Okay. I just want to say your session is very, very interesting, and as you can see, there are some questions that are there in the Q&A. But I also have a question on how do people separate their personal brand from the corporate brand. I know, like the founder of the Virgin Atlantic, how does he actually, I think that is very important for the founder and the organization to be kind of separate. But how do they even do that?
Interesting. Great question, Samantha. Yeah, that can be quite dicey, actually. So one of the things really that people get to do, for instance, is to actually draw that line and to just make sure that they are not merging their personal brands and then their organizational brands together. So Virgin is seen as an organization in itself. So Richard Branson is the owner of Virgin, right? But then he is Richard Branson in himself, and there's a brand around him. So that you can deliberately do that. So one simple way, for example, is creating separate social media accounts, just as an example, right? So you don't want to be posting personal things on your corporate account, for instance, and you don't, and vice versa. So if you have an organization, you have a business, you're small, you're still trying to get friends and family to like you, friends and family to, follow what you're doing. You can share some of the content on your personal platform to say, hey guys, I have this new business, this is what I'm doing, support me, which is great. But as you move along, you want to draw that line and create a separate professional account for your brand. You want to have your brand colors, you want to have, and as we move along, we'll be going into all of the other details as well. You want to make sure that you have all of that separate for your business apart from yourself. All right. Another thing also that some people do is just make sure that, like, yeah, it's good to post like family pictures and things like that online, the online space, for instance, for personal brand. You can be deliberate about those things and just have your own space where you create your own content for yourself and your family and friends, if you will, but just separate your business from your person. Hope that helps.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then there's also someone who says, thank you, it's Success, who says, thank you for this illustration, Wemimo. Amazon has a very broad mission, selling everything and creating happiness. As a startup, would you advise one to go for a broad brand description? And also there was a question by Success again, which says, can a brand be expanded along the way? Like if you are doing books and then you add sports equipment. So maybe you can take that one.
Okay, sure. So at every point in time, you want to make sure that your brand is known for something. Sometimes because it's a small business and it's just us, for instance, so you kind of just, because it's me, okay, I have a book business. Let's say I have a Facebook page, I have a book business, and I'm talking about my books. And then, now we've moved into sporting equipment. On that same page, you're talking about your sporting equipment. You're confusing your audience. All right. Remember, we talked about audience segmentation. I'm very sure that the people you're targeting for your book business are not the same people that you'll be targeting for your sports equipment. They may overlap at some point, but they are not necessarily the same. So you want to sit down and actually take pen on paper, like take a pen literally and paper, or if you like digital style, just type it somewhere, but just break it down. So this business I want to run, who exactly are my target audience? Who is this for, and where are they? How can I reach them? How exactly can I communicate with them in the best way they understand? So if you're for instance running a sporting equipment business, in addition to your book business, your target audience may be young people, right? Or it may be, you could even say, oh, I want to encourage elderly people to get into sports. So my target audience are the more elderly people. Fantastic. But so if you're doing that, what messages are you trying to pass across to them? That you're a dependable business, you are concerned about their health, that you are, you are very big on health and vitality. So maybe, for instance, you want to pick a color like green for your sporting business versus your book business. Maybe your book business is more targeted towards, let's say you want to sell school books for little children. You want to pick colors that are like bright and exciting, like, oh, this business is, we're exciting, we love books, we love reading, and want to encourage you to read. So you just even from this illustration, you can see that you're speaking to different people. So you want to separate it. It's okay to be the same person who is doing, multiple businesses. I would even say, take it one step at a time. Don't just model up everything, because then you can just have everything on model and then you're not really getting the best out of it. But separate them. Be clear on who you're speaking to for each. Create separate social accounts. Create separate brands for them. Brand colors, brand your key messages, all of that. You want to separate all of that so that you don't get it all modeled together. I hope that helps. Success.
Thank you so much, Wemimo. When I read out the questions, I just want you to be resting a bit.
Sure. Maybe we can go ahead now, and then as we move along, I'm sure more questions will come in, and then we can just take all of the questions at the end.
Okay. So would you like to move on, or do we get the last set of questions? Because I just grouped them into one, which are logos. People were asking about logos, so I just bundled them into one question. Would that be okay, or do you want to? Okay. So it's kind of asking about, it's actually Alpha and Caroline who ask about logos, and Alpha is wondering if there's any authority that looks at logos. For example, like intellectual, is it intellectual property or so? And he's also worried that maybe that logo is taken somewhere else in the world. How do you even know that? Is there a place where you can search and find some logos and the brand names so that you don't copy someone else's thing? And also Viola is asking on how best can you have a logo branding that can attract both those who are literate and illiterate at the same time, or to really engage people who are like in different classes with your logo?
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So maybe I'll start off with Caroline's question. So as we move along in the presentation, one of the things that we're going to be touching on is the importance of working with an expert. I know sometimes, we're like, I'm still small, I don't have a lot of money, they're charging me so much to design something for me, but it's important to work with an expert. So in terms of a brand that can speak to illiterate and literate percentage, a greater percentage of literate and illiterate people, you might want to just sit down and be a bit clear on what exactly your business is. And are you really sure that your business is going to be targeted at both literate and illiterate people? If that is, that's fine. All right. So working with a graphics designer, working with an expert in that space, you're able to create something. So for instance, you're looking at the fact that because some of your target audience are not literate, you want to have maybe not so much of text, and then more of the visual. So your messaging is coming out more from the visual. So you kind of know that text-based communication or be coming from your business would not be targeted at the illiterates the illiterate in your target audience because they cannot read. I hope that makes sense. So you want to, at the end of the day, it still boils down to you sitting down to reflect on what exactly the business is. You didn't really put too much details around what that business is. But you need to sit down and reflect around what that business is about, what exactly you want to do, and then how it will be best to communicate with them. Automatically, you already know that those who are illiterate minimize text or take out text completely, just focus more on images. You'll be heavy on pictures because that's what they're able to see, they're able to relate with and understand. And then you use, you're big on your colors as well. You're making sure that you're getting the right emotions across to your audience. Alpha, your question was around copyright. So copyright issues and the fact that, you can create something and it's already created somewhere else. Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, some people actually trademark their logos and trademark those things. Unfortunately, in Africa, like the dynamics in Africa, right? Different countries and different things. I'm not really sure how it works in certain countries, but definitely you can check. So for instance, one quick, very simple thing that I would say you can even do is just even searching online, a brand name. At the end of this session, some of the resources that will be provided to you is a site that is like a brand name generator. And you're able to just generate names from there. One quick way you can do, so when you generate a name, even if you don't use the brand name generator, you just sit in your house, you get an inspiration for a business name that you want to run with, do a quick Google search, just search online if that name exists, all right? Search online, you can check also on web providers. So you want to make sure that the name has not been used by somebody else anywhere else in the world. As far as the world, the world is global now, the world is changing. Literally, if your business is not online, it's as good as that business does not exist. So you check online for any other business that has that kind of name, or that has, and that brings me into a bit of competitor research. So generally, even while you're sitting down to create your logo, sitting down to create your brand name, etc., you're also checking for competitors and seeing what other people are doing. You're doing your research to see what other people are doing as well. So just searching online, one website that is helpful to, for instance, check if that name has been used by a website somewhere, or if that name is available, is GoDaddy. GoDaddy.com you can just check. But there are quite some others as well that you can check on and just see, has this name been used? A quick Google search, just check there, and then you can tell. So that kind of helps you. And then in terms of copyright, if you have an agency in your country, I don't know what country you're from, but if there's an agency in your country that does registrations, I believe in Nigeria, for instance, there's the Corporate Affairs Commission that does registration of businesses. So usually you're able to go there and check details. They would let you know if that name exists somewhere. If those nitty-gritty details, they're able to give you that information, and then you can go back to fine-tune if you have to. I hope that helps. All right. I think because of our time, we'll just go into the rest of the slides, and then we can take the rest of the questions at the end of the session.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we get a sense of the color emotion guide, and the kind of colors that elicits what kind of emotion. So you need to be deliberate about those things when you're selecting your colors. Now, there's something called Hex Codes. I put a quick resource there. It's called coolers.co. And at the end of the session, they'll also be sharing with you some of these things. So you want to, now you've decided, you feel like, oh, I think that my brand, I want to show that my brand is bold and confident. We're bold, we're helping our customers to, we're helping them meet their needs, or, whatever it is. When you sit down and reflect and decide on what it is, so you've decided on your brand colors. You can go into coolers.co. You can write that down, or the resource will be shared with you. And then coolers.co kind of helps you to create, to see like a color palette, and then see, okay, what accompanying colors can work best with your main brand color. And so that you also, because you don't want to have, for instance, just one color. I mean, it's okay if you have just one color, but you want to be able to have colors that blend in and match with it. Again, bringing me to the question the other time about, literate and illiterate. You want to, at the end of the day, you want to be able to work with an expert to then sit down and say, okay, which one works best? So I think I like red. I think red is bold. I think that my brand, is the emphasis is on boldness and confidence. We're trying to help our customers to get this kind of experiences. Fantastic. Work with your graphics person, or even online. There are quite some resources as well online that can just show you color palette. So what colors match the color you have selected. All right. And then, so you have the hex codes. The hex codes are like this acronyms, this hash, so and so and so numbers and letters. You want to make sure that you have the hex codes. I typically just like to have it. You could have it written down somewhere. Coolers does a fantastic job with, once you create an account with them, it actually, saves those, your color selections, and then also saves the hex codes. So what exactly is this hex code thing? Basically, your hex code ensures that you can consistently replicate that exact color, all right, in that exact shade, that just the same way it is that you want. You can replicate that on all your communication materials. So when you've decided on your colors, right, and Coolers shows you the hex code, you take note of the hex code. You can take that hex code and throw it. So if you want to choose, for instance, you're working on your website, all right, or you're working on flyers for your business or for your organization, you can give the graphics person who is working on your graphics, just give him that exact hex code, hash 00A5E, whatever it is for your color, and they're able to get the exact shade. So that way you're sure that you're consistently replicating that color on all of your materials. All right. You don't just pick one color today, one red, and then you tell your graphics person to create something for you. Because you didn't tell him the hex code, he just picks a red that he thinks looks like it. And then you have somebody managing your social media, and then they're trying to create content, flyers, and the person picks a red that looks like it, it looks like red, but it's not the same thing. All right. So you want to make sure that you have your hex codes, which Coolers would help you generate. So just have that handy, and then you can always take that back to at any point in time when you're working on graphics and designs and whatever. Just throw in the hex code. If you're using Adobe Photoshop, InDesign, whatever software, it's a general coding system that all softwares work with. Now let's move into fonts. So remember, I keep using the illustration of Coca-Cola, and the way their words, the Coca-Cola is written, it's just interesting that no matter where you see it, you will recognize it, regardless of what part of the world, right? And that's because they have chosen a particular font that sticks. Now, there are 6 basic font classifications. We have the serif, we have the sans serif, we have slab serif, we have script, handwritten, and decorative. Now, for each of these 6 categories, they are kind of broken down. So, for instance, some of the text that we know, some of the fonts that we know, let's say Arial, Calibri, some of those are probably under like sans serif. They're under sans serif, the modern. What makes them different? The serif, the sans serif, you may wonder. So serif usually they have like bases. So they are a little cursive. So at the edge of the letters, you see the like stretches that come with the text. And there are some texts that fall under the category serif. So I just talked about Arial. I just spoke about Calibri. They fall under sans serif. They are not cursive. They don't have those curves and curvature at the end of their wording. They're quite modern. So if, for instance, your brand is something that is modern, you're like the person who was asking a question around sport equipment. If you're running a sport equipment business, I suppose that your company should be one that is modern. So you're thinking of, so even when you're picking your color, you're thinking of upbeat colors, bright, exciting, you're getting people, you're sending the vibes that, once you you use our sporting equipment, you wear our sporting shoes, you buy the tennis bat or whatever, we're fun, we get you excited, we get you moving, we're able to. So you're passing all of that messaging simply from the colors you pick, simply from the text. All right. So you're looking at text around sans serif if you're a modern kind of business. If you're a business who is big on bold, you want to look at slab serifs. If you're look at so a Coca-Cola, for instance, will be in the category, whatever the fonts they're using would be in the category of scripts. All right. So these are just 6 basic classifications. There's several other text, particular font types that fall under the different categories. All right. So those, for instance, those texts that look like handwritten, they typically fall here. You use them for informal communication. If, for instance, your business is big on, we're not so formal. We're, a relaxed, not formal kind of business. You can decide that you want to use this. Let's say, for instance, your business is, I know there's a business that comes to mind now. They're like a gift shop. So imagine if the business you run is a gift shop and you're a celebration store. All right. And you basically help people celebrate. So whenever it's Valentine, you're the business people can call to go do surprise packages. And, you're the one who would go get the balloons for the parties or those kind of things. You may want to move away from like the classic serif, which is like the formal sort of things. I mean, that's you now looking at what works best for you. You might want to try like informal. So for instance, on some of the texts that you use maybe in the text in your cards or whatever, you might want to try out something that looks handwritten or scripts. Something that looks elegant. Okay, you're sending a proposal package for a young man who is about to propose to his girlfriend to be his wife, right? So you're looking at, text around elegant, or if you're doing official communication, you can then say, okay, because we're a modern business, so then we use sans serif. And maybe just to add that as an organization, as a business, you can pick a mix of fonts and then stay with that. So you can say, for example, for all of our formal letters, let's say that you are a business that is modern. for example. You say for all of our formal communication, we would use sans serif. So let's say Arial, all right, or Calibri, for instance. And the font size would be maybe Arial 11 or Arial 12 for formal text. Then say for our communication, maybe on proposal, when I gave the example of a business that does celebrations and things. So for our proposals and whenever we're writing text for proposals, we would use scripts, maybe one of the curved texts that fall in the category of scripts, so things like that, just those considerations. If you are a more formal business, you work with donors, you are you work with donors, you're getting grants, you're implementing a lot of work in communities, you might want to stay away from the last three, all right, and stay more around, for instance, texts that fall under serif, or texts that fall under the sans serif. Usually in your Word documents, for instance, Microsoft Word, it kind of just shows those text details there. So again, if you want to know those that are serif, they're the ones with curves at the edge. So if you see any of the text in Microsoft Word that has curves like this, they look formal, all right, but they still have these little curves at the edges, then they are the serifs. All right, so you might want to say, okay, formal documents or sans serif. If you want to, you're a nonprofit, you relate with donors and community members, you want to communicate certain things, but you still want to feel modern, you can pick, Arial is still a very fine text, Calibri is still a very fine text, right? So it's just those considerations that you put in mind when you're creating your communication resources. All right, let's go into taglines. Taglines are those short words. So Coca-Cola, open happiness. Nike, just do it. Apple, think different. UNICEF, for every child. Ford, go further. Okay, so you can go on and on. Different brands have those small, really brief, straight to the point taglines, but they're there to give you a sense of what their brand is about, what we stand for. So whenever you open a bottle of Coca-Cola, you're opening happiness. Whenever you wear our sneakers, our Nike sneakers, we're letting you know that, man, get up, you can do this, get on your feet, you can run, you're not, just get up and do it. That's the vibe they're trying to pass across. And look at it, they're using black. Remember, we talked about stability. When you use things like black, gray, there's something about maturity, stability with those colors. UNICEF, it says for every child. And that's literally, even if you didn't know anything that that the organization was doing, just seeing their tagline for every child, it gives you a sense that, okay, this organization has something to do with children and they are meeting every child. And there's the globe. So literally every child across the world, right? Look at their color as well. They picked blue. Blue is that color of stability, trust, dependability. So a business that is big on those sort of things, we want to use colors like that. So for your tagline, you want to keep it simple, nothing complex, not too much drama. The longer it is, the more complicated it gets. Make it short and straight to the point, but something that sticks, all right? Something that people can just read it and they remember your business, all right? Also, give it meaning. All right, let's say it's something that is meaningful, make it clear, no complexities, focus on the benefits, all right? What exactly will people get in a very simple way? 3 words, 2 words, 3 words, absolute max, I would say maybe 4 words, but you're saying something from that. Tell a story. Okay, let there be something in the text. As part of one of the resources to help you, one of the resources you'll be getting is a business tagline worksheet. And it's just, if you can follow through, it just helps you break it down step by step on how exactly you can create a tagline for your business or for your organization. And it's pretty straightforward and easy to use as well. All right, so still around branding, let's go into this voice chart. I particularly pulled this up. I really loved this brand voice chart created by CoSchedule. They also pulled it from the Content Marketing Institute, and it's really a simple way to just give you a sense of how you should be sounding in your communication. So you've identified your colors, you've identified the kind of text you want to use, you've identified the tagline, this is how I want to sound, or I want the business or the organization to sound. That's the next thing you want to be looking at. And if you see some businesses, there's one business that every now and then I refer to. I believe it should be quite popular particularly among us Africans and particularly women. She Leads Africa. She Leads Africa is quite an interesting organization. They're focused on women and girls, I would say. And if you follow She Leads Africa online, for example, on their social media channels, there's a vibe you get when you follow them, and they pass information around capacity building for women and helping you to build your confidence and things like that. But there's an interesting, relaxed way that the communication is passed across, and consistently in their emails, in their, in the pictures they use, in the text, you can tell that they're doing a really great job around their brand voice. So for instance, if you want to be a brand that is passionate, okay, let's use the sports equipment example. We are passionate, let's say passionate, the sports equipment example, for instance. So, we are passionate about changing the way the world works. All right. So one of the things you want to do is to use strong verbs. All right, in your communication. All right, use strong verbs. Don't use verbs that are like, we are hoping to help you we are hoping to help you lose weight when you buy our equipment. You don't want to sound that way. You want to sound like, when you buy equipment, you're able to lose weight, we'll support you. Equipment help you to make sure that you get active in the morning, and you get, you hit the day jogging into the day, and you're able to burn sweat. In the pictures you're using, you're showing people who are jogging in the day. You're showing, people eating veggies, eating healthy. You're showing, you're selling sports equipment, right? But you're not just saying, come and buy our equipment. You're saying the benefits of buying our equipment. You're talking about your customers who bought your equipment and how she used to be, let's say, 100 kilograms, and now she's 60. And she bought equipment from your store. You were checking in on her every now and then. She used the equipment well, and today she's lost weight. That's an amazing story to tell on socials. So it's just, you want to, again, while you're even passing across that message and putting out that story, you're using strong verbs. You're a cheerleader. If you are a business that you decide that your brand voice is going to be passionate, you're a cheerleader. Go girl. This is our, our customer. She bought this tracksuit from us, and she was 100 kg. She's now 60. You're talking about not just come and buy our products, but our products is changing lives, and we are your cheerleader. We're here to support you and help you as you lose weight, right? Or get active. It may be football, it may be squash, it may be whatever other sport. But I'm hoping that you get that. So for instance, if you decide that we're a quirky, fun, exciting kind of business, for instance, we're not afraid to challenge the status quo and be ourselves. So you want to use unexpected examples. Okay, everybody's going a certain way. Your content, you kind of twist your content in a way that goes the other way. Your content are expressive. All right, you don't use too much slang or obscure references. All right. But so even though you're trying to express yourself and be free, you're not losing sight of your audience. So if, for instance, you pass across a message and some people on your social media, on Facebook or Instagram, put a comment, you don't say, because we're expressing ourselves, you lose sight, you shouldn't lose sight of your audience. So if people make a comment, you respond back respectfully and all of that. So, and that could be your brand voice. And that's fine. That could be what you decide, this is how we want to sound. So you want to take note of all of that in your communication. So if, for instance, the brand voice you want is irreverent, okay, you're pretty much saying we take our product seriously and we don't take ourselves too seriously. So we have the fun. And I remember the one that comes to mind, I talked about She Leads Africa. Following She Leads Africa on socials or subscribing to their email addresses, that they are talking about serious things, but they use such playful analogies and playful examples and playful pictures. And you can tell they're very deliberate about how they pass across their messaging and the colors and everything, even the memes, everything, all shows that we are playful, they're using colorful illustrations and examples, but yet they're not too casual, and they're not using too many obscure examples, but they're still passing across the message such that in all of their communication, that you pick up anything from them and you get that feeling when you read it or when you see it. Same thing, authentic. So if you want to be a brand that is authentic, right? So we're going to give you the tools and the insights you need to make your job easier. That may not always be through our product. It may not always be through our products, but we will just give you the resources. So we're a business that is honest. You want to be honest, okay? So you are showing your business. You can also show complementary businesses, if you will, that support, that further complements the what you do. So one that comes to mind in terms of complementary right now is bread and butter. So let's say, for instance, you are let's say you produce butter, just an example. You're a company that produces butter. You can have a collaboration, co-branding, have a collaboration with a particular bread making company or something. And then, you can't just sit down and eat butter. You need something else to eat it, right? So butter gives you, it gives you energy, helps you, it gives you a lot of energy. There's quite a lot of fat in it too and stuff. So you're talking about, so you agree that there's fat, which can be dangerous to the health, but then you also know that butter is lovely with bread. So you want to, for instance, you're showing your butter with bread. You're showing in some of your posts, you also talk about health benefits of butter. Butter is good, it gives you energy, and you're honest. However, even though butter gives you energy, too much of fat is not good for your body, is not good for your heart, stuff like that. And you kind of balance it, make sure that you take it in minimal amount. So that's an example, for instance, people who produce cigarettes and sell cigarettes. So that's something that they do. They are selling the cigarettes. They want to make money from the cigarettes, but they are honest to tell you that smokers are liable to die young. So while they are passing across messaging on it's nice to smoke, it makes you feel great, they also let you know that, okay, your lungs can also suffer when you take too much of cigarette. Same thing with people who sell alcohol, right? So it's just, so you just need to then sit down and reflect, what kind of brand do I want to be and what kind of message do I want to pass across? How do I want my brand to sound and feel when people see our products, when they see our service, when they come in contact with our services? How do we want them to feel? And it's the same way too, even with your team members, you want to make sure that they are passing across that vibe. So when somebody has a problem with your product and they call, you want to make sure that they're sounding, if you choose that, if for instance, irreverent is what you're choosing, we are going to be fun and happy. Make sure you're fun and happy on the phone. You're not only fun and happy on Instagram or on Facebook, all right? If you want to be passionate or quirky, you want to make sure that that feeling, that voice is consistent across all the channels of your communication.
Hi, Wemimo, I'll come in a bit.
Oh, please, yes.
Okay, yeah, so I just want to remind people that we are left with about 5 minutes, but I'm sure we'll be going a little bit over by 5 to 10 minutes. But I just want to make sure that people know that we are almost rounding up. And if they do have questions and comments, it would be nice to also have them in the chat box so that we can round up knowing that we have taken all the questions. So yeah, I guess we are about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to go. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, awesome. Thank you for that, Samantha. We're actually going towards the end of the slide, so amazing. We'll be looking at questions. As you move along, please, if anything comes to mind, please just throw it in the chat so that we can address it during our question and answer. All right. So the other thing you also want to make sure you're doing is we talked, as we moved along, we talked about social media branding. So you're making sure that your voice, your text, all of those are also reflecting in your social media. Your brand imagery, okay, you want to be deliberate about the kind of pictures that you use. Some brands, for example, would say, okay, our pictures will be basically black and white. And and then we're emphasizing our products, and then the pictures will be black and white. Some brands would say, we use pictures of young children, they must always be smiling. So all of our pictures, we should never have children, even though we're speaking about disability, for instance, we should never have people who are disabled and then they're looking downcast and sad. So that may be something you want to be deliberate about and say that, so in all of our communication, the pictures that we take, even though people are sitting on wheelchairs, even though people are wearing glasses or holding crutches or whatever, they must always be smiling. And it's buttressing our communication that even though you're disabled, doesn't mean your life is over. There's more to life. And there's a lot more you can do with life. And, so you just want to sit back and reflect on what the messaging you want to pass across is and how you want to couch that. All right, as we wrap up now, so you want to define your brand, make sure that, and these are some factors you want to consider. So you want to define your brand, make sure that you know your unique selling point, what makes you different from the crowd in your space. Do that research. You need to do your homework, do that research, and make sure that you're picking colors, picking text, picking, all of those things that further buttresses your brand. You want to sit back and reflect a bit on your resources. Okay, what resources do you have available? You're a small business. You don't have a lot of money. I doubt, as a small business owner, funding is something that every business owner, whether it's a profit or non-profit organization, every business owner is looking at. So you want to then sit down and reflect, do I want to do these things myself? I want to build my brand. Do I want to build it myself? Do I want to get people to support me? Do I have the human resource? Do I have the capital, the human capital? Even if I don't have the financial resources, do I have people that can work with me? Do I want to just go online and search? We'll share some resources, but there are loads of more resources online. Do I want to go the do-it-yourself route and do them myself? So these are some of the things you want to sit back and reconsider while you're deciding. Also, your expertise, while you're thinking of your do-it-yourself route, do you really have the expertise to do it? Okay, are you sure you can? Because you want to make sure that you are giving off a good first impression. So you don't want to do something crappy simply because you're low on budget. Sometimes it may just be helpful to take that as an investment, find somebody who is an expert that can support you, a graphics designer. You can negotiate something that is not so expensive, but get someone that would do a great job for you so that when you're coming off to the public, they're getting the good first impression. Or even if you want to rebrand, get good quality done so that people get a good impression of your business. If you can get a designer in your locality that can do it for you, fantastic. There are also websites online that can provide you with resources. There's upwork.com, I think. There's fiverr.com. You can find people there who are able to support you and create graphic design, create your brand guide, create those kind of things, regardless of what country you are in the world. They just get what you need and support you with everything that you require. And they're able to deliver to you regardless. All right. And we'll be sending additional resources to you. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It's been such a pleasure.
Wow, thank you so much, Wemimo. This has been so enlightening. And, I was looking as well at the participants, and we had a constant number of people. So I just want that a wonderful presentation. I did see questions, so I will just refer to the chat box. There's someone who says, Wemimo, can an initial branding of a company limit its consequent expansion or franchise? Or that is dependent on the type of business that one is in. For example, McDonald's was able to expand its brand, even though the brand made use of their name and that's within the food industry. But what if it comes to health? I'm a doctor and I'm afraid of putting my name on the brand might limit its expansion.
Okay, so trying to get this clearly. So you're concerned about the branding of a company and its expansion. So that comes to when choosing a name, right? So for instance, I heard the story once of Virgin, and Virgin is one company that has done well in this illustration that you're giving. Virgin is literally in different places. There's Virgin Mobile, there's they have the airlines, Virgin Atlantic, they have, different things that the brand is doing. And basically they were able to get a brand name that is not really tied to a particular sector, such that they're able to then expand to other things. So one safe way I would suggest is, if you're picking a brand name, you can pick something that is a bit generic, all right? And just, when you eventually decide on what that brand name is, you can go online and search to see if there's any organization that is already using that name or maybe something similar. If you need to change things a little bit, you could. You want to check also that there's websites available. The name is available. If you wanted to create a Facebook account for it, the name is available. Nobody's using it on Twitter. Nobody's using it on Instagram. Nobody, those certain things. You want to do your homework to check all that. But I would say the safe place would be just pick a name that is not limiting, something that would allow you expand in the future if you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wemimo. I also have I think I would say a comment on the brand voice that you're talking about. I've seen some organizations, because I interact in the NGO space. I wanted us to kind of discuss or talk about how people have a negative brand voice. There are some organizations that when you follow them, they are always negative, always. I don't know if it's what they plan to do, or maybe they are not aware of this, but there's this negative vibe that comes off it. And also being aware of your competition, like what you were saying. But there are some people who say, like I've seen the people who do like sexual and reproductive health rights, they'll say, maybe they're a pet company, and then they'll say pads should be free because condoms, why are condoms free and pads you have to buy, or something like that. Really, this is actually an SR-HR issue. So it's like you're fighting yourself, and also as well as, you don't have to downplay somebody else's somebody else's organization so that yours can get the support. I'm not sure if you can get what I mean.
Yes, I do. And the honest truth is, the media and communication space can actually be a bit murky. And you'll be amazed that those you see their communication and you feel like, why are they being negative? Why are they? But that may just be a deliberate thing they're doing. Controversy sells. The people who go in a certain way, they're often forgettable. But it's interesting now that, Samantha, you're using this illustration because you saw that and that company's brand stuck in your mind. Right? So that's a deliberate communication tool. So that's something that is used in media and communications quite often. It takes a lot of boldness to do that. Not all brands are, open to do that. But that's something that you want to be sure that you're ready to do. Okay, it can come with a bit of crisis. It can come with backlash from followers. It can come, you imagine creating that, maybe seeing that on Instagram or somewhere, and then you comment, oh, what do you mean? How can you say this? This is a serious issue. Yeah, but it's probably a deliberate thing. That's like their strategy to get your attention. If they were sounding all nice online, you probably would have just glossed over them and you wouldn't have seen them. But that's something you want to think about. If that's something you really want to do as a brand.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, guys, this is 17:35 in my country, and I just want to thank everybody for joining. Guys, this has been such a wonderful session. And I'm just looking at having more talks around branding, around the communication strategy even of organizations. I think this is very, very important. And the points that you're raising today about what the colors mean, what your logo would mean, and so forth. These are some things, and even the controversial stuff that you're saying at the end, these are something that I would definitely have to think about. So thank you so much, Wemimo, for joining us today. Thank you so much for taking your time and for giving us your expertise. This was really a wonderful session. And to the Walls Mountain scholars that are here, the graduate scholars, and even the students, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I know some are having examinations and some are, but you took the time to be here. And also to the Walls Mountain Initiative staff and the support persons who are with us today. Thank you so much for being here and for your support. Thank you so much and have a great, great day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.